It's a crazy world, crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you.
All right, people, it's Friday, November 8th, 2024. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. We are live streaming, as we are one to do, on Rumble, on Locals, and on YouTube. Subscribe, huh? Why not? And since it's a Friday, we're doing a little catch-up show. We thought we'd skip the panel show this week and just catch up on a little of the pre-election craziness and then plenty of the post-election craziness. And then we got a Locals community Q&A for you. And let's just dive right in. I really like this first video. You know how I've been feeling all week. I'm feeling like you. Things are good. I'm happy. America's back. It's fantastic. The future's bright, man. But AOC, she's not happy about it. And we were doing the run through for the show this morning. We played this clip and then I said, guys, I want to be in the box when we show the people this video of occasional cortex. Go.
We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives.
Hell yeah.
We cannot give up. We now find ourselves in a time in history that has precedent, and we find ourselves,
good times, the 80s.
I believe, in a time where there are, let's say, peers in history of mass movements of people that mobilize to protect one another in times of fascism and authoritarianism.
We're starting to veer off, lady.
And this is the era that we are poised to enter. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies.
That's more you
authoritarians
guys, and
say that. People that he affiliates closely with and strongmen abroad. In regimes like that, it is not uncommon to jail political dissidents or legislative opponents.
Trying to do with him for the last 2 years.
This is the world that we very realistically may be entering.
Lady, I'm not sure I'm on the same planet as you, but fortunately for you, Donald Trump doesn't care about you enough to jail you. We should probably look into some of the things that the Democratic Party did over the last couple of years, like Russia hoax and how they cooed Joe Biden and a whole bunch more. But you are just insane. And fortunately, you are becoming largely irrelevant. If this election was about one thing, it was really about the fact that nobody, including even a portion of the Democrats, like the progressives. You were all hysterical, anti-American lunatics. We have had it with your false cries of racism and your hatred of this country. And I hope you've enjoyed the ride, because you probably do have another year or two. I mean, I think she's got a year and a half left or something, whatever it is, in tenure. But you're done after this. We don't care about you. And the only time I will play videos of you going forward on this program is to mock you, which I think is exactly what we've done for the last couple of years anyway, but I'm just illustrating it once again. Let's just jump back to the day before the election, because that was post-election AOC. She's not happy, fascism's on the way, and all that stuff. But let's go to another wonderful Democrat, because she is a Democrat. It's Liz Cheney the day before the election, warning people that this could be the last election.
A vote for Donald Trump may mean the last election that you ever get to vote in. And again, I don't say that lightly, and it I think is heartbreaking that that's where we are. But people have to recognize that a vote for Donald Trump is a vote against the Constitution.
You don't say it lightly, but you do say it bullshittingly. Is that a word? That's how you say it, lady, because it's obviously not true. A vote for Donald Trump, who was president, is a vote against the Constitution. Complete and utter nonsense, and congratulations, you are now in the clown car with AOC and the Hamas chick and the one who married her brother and the rest of these largely irrelevant people. Have fun with it. Speaking of people who are largely irrelevant, Stephen Colbert, who I only say the word comedian in the most loosest sense of, he's just a piece of the machine. They gave him a late night show to push propaganda. That's exactly what he does. You'll never forget that horrific vaccine dance that he did. Remember that COVID vaccine dance? Probably the most debasing thing in the history of late night television. Here he is, of course, post-election ranting about Trump and congratulating Kamala, the one who lost.
I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. Well, it happened again. After a bizarre and vicious campaign fueled by a desperate need not to go to jail, Donald Trump has won the 2024 election. It's almost like you rehearsed that. The deep shock and sense of loss is enormous. Okay, but let's look at the bright side. This way, at least there'll be a peaceful transfer of power. Mike Pence, ollie ollie oxen free. All day yesterday, I was walking around proudly wearing my I voted sticker. Today, I wore my I am questioning my fundamental belief in the goodness of humanity sticker. Yeah, they give those out. In this democracy, the majority has spoken, and they said they don't care that much about democracy. And I want to take a moment to congratulate Kamala Harris and Tim Walz on running an amazing 107-day campaign. You know, come on. That was
Good God, however much he makes, 15, 20 mil a year, I guess it's worth the price of your soul. I love how he says, it's like you guys rehearsed it when they applauded there. It's like, dude, you literally have signs in your audience that tell them when to applaud. You literally have PAs that stand there and start applauding so they get a visual cue when to applaud. It's not like I have signs in here that tell people when to applaud. Thank you. Thank you very much. But the program continued. He brought on CBS News chief political analyst John Dickerson, and John started crying.
How would you explain that to a 14-year-old today? How would you explain this election?
I'll try not to think about my boys, because...
Yes.
Here, look, I'm going to take off the newsman glasses. What you just saw right there is such an embarrassment to comedy and an embarrassment to news. I don't know which is worse. I don't know if that's worse for comedy or news, what you just saw there. You see a fake comedy show that's really a political propaganda show with a newsman crying that he didn't get the results from the election he wanted. Oh my goodness. Speaking of crying people on television, here's Jimmy Kimmel.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth and democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize.
Guys, there was so much nonsense there. I'm going to need a new Sharpie. It was a bad night for women. Oh, no, we're going to have less abortions. It was a bad night for children. Oh, no, more children are going to be born. Oh, no, it was a bad night for immigrants. Oh, we're going to have legal ways to come into the country. Oh, no, it was a bad night for healthcare. Oh, that's weird. We're not going to force people to be locked down in their homes anymore. It was a bad night for science. Don't get me fucking started. It's a bad night for journalism. It's a bad night for free speech. Yes, you people who have been stifling all of our free speech. It's a bad night for our allies. Yeah, ask Israel about that. It's a bad night for NATO. Who gives a flying fuck about NATO? Et cetera, et cetera. He's just a sad, sad man. Do we have a still image, maybe a close-up still image of his sadness? Look at the poor, sad man. All of the money, all of the fame, and you didn't get what you want. All of the Diddy parties, and you didn't get what you needed in the end, which was just the destruction of an orange man. Do we have video of him in blackface? We do. I think we do.
Sometime at night, call below, look up in the sky and say, What the hell going on up there? Do UFO live on other planet, phoning home like E.T.? Kamala read on TV about white people getting deducted by alien, sticking all kind of hell up their butt. And that's a damn thing.
That actually strikes me as racist. You know what I mean? Like, the word racist is a little overused these days, but that actually strikes me as racist. But that's Jimmy Kimmel, and there's a reason he got the job they knew he would live in servitude toward them because they basically got him by the balls. That's not a Diddy joke, it's a joke about him being in blackface. From quote-unquote comedians in blackface to hack Democrat operatives now working at a televised mental institution, here's Claire McCaskill over on MSNBC, and she also is crying. It's been a great week for the Kleenex people.
I mean, this is really hard stuff. For her to be selected as vice president after what I think she would tell you was a very disappointing presidential race, where I think she kind of lost her footing and was listening too much to consultants, frankly, and it didn't really exude who she was. And then to be vice president and to step into the most difficult situation in the world, where she had to be completely loyal to Joe Biden and respectful of the fact that he had chosen her, but yet maneuver in a situation, I mean, such political skill. It is just inspiring. People who don't understand what she had to do to get to this moment. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just very proud of her.
Howard, I don't want to...
Guys, people don't understand what she had to do. You have to understand. She had to have a meeting with Barack Obama and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. And they had to have a meeting, and they had to sit down, and they had to say, we're going to take that old bastard out. And Kamala, you're going to have to tell her we're going to use the 25th Amendment to do it. And then if you do that, then we'll install you. You can be president. It's such crocodile tears with these people. It's just, I did take one acting class about 15 years ago, and I think you might be able to see in the corner of my eye right there. There's a little, can you see it? Just the glimmer of the tiniest tear. Give me a fucking Oscar. Put me on MSNBC. There's a blonde woman on MSNBC. You've seen her before.
It's not the people who deliver Trump, which is Generation X, my generation. Mm-hmm. They got a little coin in the bank. They just want a tax cut. They are not the people who are struggling. It is the people Claire described are those millennials who can't, like my kids. I have a Z and I have millennials. They can't afford their lives. We still have to help them. They're trying and they're striving. That's the people who are struggling. They took a chance on that lady. They had the faith in the future to say that this black and Asian woman could lead this country. So that's where we need to bet on the young. My generation, Generation X, the people who grew up on WWE and Hulk Hogan and Donald Trump did this. They did this. They are the ones who looked in the face of somebody who said, I want to be a dictator on day one. We did this. We did this to our kids. Our elders, our seniors, our 65 plus split 50-49 in her favor. So they washed either way. But our generation has to really take a really long, hard look, because we're not the people struggling that Claire described. It's the young people that we've now condemned to mass deportation.
As a Gen Xer, Joy, as someone in your generation, I'm taking a hard look, and I like what I see, baby, okay? As for why your children are struggling, it probably has far more to do with their mother than it has anything to do with the state of society, and certainly of Donald Trump. Also, now I'm to believe that Kamala is Asian too. She's black and Asian. I thought she was an Indian who celebrated Kwanzaa. Get the story straight, people. This is the clip of the show, though, because over on The View yesterday, Sunny Hostin. She's racist. She's a complete maniac. She's deeply unlikable. She's a horrible, vicious woman. But how do you really feel, Dave? She started describing what's going on with the Latinos. You got to blame the Latinos for breaking Trump. And then silly little pet Republican Alyssa Farah, the girl they give a cookie to every now and again, she tried to speak up, and watch how it went.
And finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the, no,
That's
it's on
why.
the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep.
So-
and they were begging people to care about it for years. We
Misogyny
need to
and
take some
sexism,
lessons.
that's what that
The
was.
lessons are not
Knock,
misogyny
knock.
and sexism.
Who's there? Oh my gosh, it's Whoopi.
Whoopi, nobody's missing you. Do you realize how pandering and horrible what Sonny just did there was? Alyssa, again, I have no love lost for Alyssa. She's just there filling a seat to pretend that they're not completely congruent in the view, but they are. It actually, the funny part of the show is it was supposed to be multiple views. They called it The View, and then it ultimately evolved into the one view we're allowed to have. But there was Alyssa saying what the truth is, which is, of course, the people on these border towns were voting because they wanted a strong border, because their towns have been overrun. We've shown you the videos of the Texas El Paso airport. Nobody cares about any of this stuff unless 24 illegals show up at Martha's Vineyard, and then you see how tolerant the liberals really are. But for Sonny Hostin to sit there, it's misogyny and racism, arms crossed, angry, and it's basically, I hate you, you white bitch devil. Well, I hope you had fun at lunch, Alyssa. Don Jr. gets what's happening here.
Hey, Don, what about New York? Can you believe the numbers in this state? Brian and I are voters here in New York, and the map has shifted. In almost every single county in New York, Republicans saw improvements, 22 percentage points better in the Bronx and in Queens than he did in 2020. The overall numbers, she got 55.4, he got 44.6. That's New York, the state of New York. What's your reaction?
Listen, I think, again, people are getting it. New York City, you know, the outer boroughs, that's always going to be a little bit different. You go up to upstate New York where, you know, I have a cabin. You know, I go into a restaurant and I'm getting high fives all over the place. So New York City is always going to be different. New York State, it's sort of amazing. I saw the same thing in New Jersey, but there's so many other demographics that we did so well with. When you look at the numbers, whether it's African Americans, whether it's Hispanics, I mean, there were states where we actually got over 50% of the youth vote, the 18 to 29 vote. That would have never been possible before, but they understand it. The reality is right now, you know, Trump, America first, it's become cool. It's become very cool. I've gone on college campuses and there's, you know, 1,000 kids going to a party. They're wearing MAGA hats and I'm there. It's absolutely spectacular to see. So there's been a whole cultural shift. If you're a rebel, if you're a hippie, if you were a little bit counterculture, if you want to push back, you're actually in the Republican Party now. The Democrat Party is that party of you're just listening to, you know, the gospel of your teachers, of big government, of big corporate. There's nothing that sexy about it anymore. So it's really cool to see. And they even rejected all of the celebrity endorsements that came about, presumably because all those people were at the Diddy parties. It was magic how all these people said, we're not getting involved in politics.
Yeah, I've spent a good portion of this show making fun of people, but Don, yeah, you're right, buddy. Like, culture is shifting. It's counterculture now, but it's about to become the culture, and then we're going to have years to run with it. That's the beauty of it. That's why I just know we are going to get to an 80s style revolution and celebration in America. Traditional groups are growing. No one wants to listen to Sonny Hostin be told, you're Latino, you have to vote like this. Nobody wants to listen to Claire McCaskill cry or Joy Reid claim that everybody's racist and morons and backwards and doing everything because we got coin in the bank and all the rest of it. The pandering, the bullshit, the fakery, the nonsense, the lies. It's over. People, let's talk about the med kit. And then we got a bit more on the man that they pushed out of the way to install this ridiculous woman and have the whole thing blow up in their faces. Do you guys remember Event 201? Just before an election, Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, and Johns Hopkins ran a pandemic simulation in October of 2019. Months later, COVID hit. Well, here we go again. It's October, we're on the verge of a historical election, and now there's a bird flu summit. Their playbook is the same: create chaos, bring back lockdowns, and perform medical tyranny. Well, wake up, guys. This is their October surprise. Last time we got caught off guard, but now we have a proven solution to protect ourselves and our families. The wellness company created the medical emergency kit, and every home in America should have at least one of these. They're packed with life-saving meds like ivermectin, amoxicillin, and even a Z-Pack. And it's all backed by experts like Dr. Peter McCullough. Picture this: no more frantic searches for a doctor, no more emergency waiting rooms. rooms. Just a few clicks and this kit is delivered to your front door. In times like these, having your medical emergency kit is a necessity. Protect your family by preparing now. Head on over to twc.health/Rubin and use code Rubin to save $45. Don't wait until it's too late. Act now, take control, and ensure you're protected against whatever comes next. That's twc.health/Rubin and use code Rubin to save $45 plus free shipping right now. So Joe Biden, the guy that they quite literally, they cooed. It was a coup. It was planned. And hopefully, you know, I was thinking about it right before the show. The best ending to all of this, I've been saying that the ending for Biden is that, you know, he basically should just kick the progressives to the side and paint like a 3-month journey that restores his legacy, that like gets us to Trump and starts resetting things. Like there's some things he can do right now as the world gets reset, knowing that Trump's on the way. That is one part of it. But what I just thought of another part. Another part would be, imagine if Joe Biden has tapes of Obama and Schumer and Pelosi. What did they say to him in the Oval Office when they forced him out? And Kamala, like maybe he might have the key to the whole castle. I don't know if that's that's completely, I have no freaking idea, but like maybe Biden's got some juice. You have no idea. But I can tell you he is juiced up, and I think he got the result in this election he wanted. Here he is yesterday.
The country chooses one or the other. We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature. I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted, win or lose. I also hope we can restore the respect for all our election workers who busted their necks and took risks at the outset. We should thank them. Thank them for staffing voting sites, counting the votes.
Well, I got to tell you, Joe, that whole thing about, you know, loving each other and all that stuff, if you would have governed like that, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. But that's a man who now realizes that he was pushed out. They tried to replace him with this person. It didn't work. And you got a chance, dude. Like, I really mean that. You got a chance to end this thing and restore your legacy. And that means, as I said, kicking the progressives to the curb, and maybe working with Trump a little bit, because the world is being reset already, whether it's the stuff we covered yesterday with Zelensky basically being like, let's get peace, or Hamas suddenly willing to come to the table. Like the world is going to start getting reset. The markets are doing well because there's hope again in the future. So why not take advantage of that? And then your legacy could be that, okay, I got a little screwy and I got a little mixed up with the progressives, but then I was the one that took them out finally. That could be. You know, when he talks about election integrity, this chart has been making the rounds. We wanted to get to it earlier in the week, but this really is worth seeing. So in 2012, you can see the results of the election. That obviously was the Mitt Romney, Barack Obama, and you can see Obama beat Romney handily. Then 2016, you can see that Hillary won the popular vote with basically the same amount, but she lost the Electoral College. So that's how Trump became president. And then you see this wild aberration, with both sides, but particularly with the blue vote that almost doubled. I mean, it's like completely, not quite doubled. It went up by about 30%. It's completely crazy. Now, Trump did get a lot of votes. I don't think anyone's walking around thinking that the Trump people cheated in 2020, but something weird, perhaps with mail-in ballots, like that thing is so wildly out of whack, because then when you look at what happened earlier this week, suddenly the Democrat vote, the line that you're seeing going horizontally there, the Democrats get basically the exact same amount of votes in every election. If you look at the Republicans there, 2012 to 2016, all right, Trump did a little better than Romney did. Then if you look at 2016 to 2020, when Trump did have momentum, he significantly did better. And then this year, it's kind of roughly the same. It was down a little bit, but the Democrat thing just makes no sense there. I think it's just worth putting a pin in and do with it what you will. We got an image of Joe Biden because you can see this is a man ready for a comeback. This is a man who they've hopped up on all the latest and greatest drugs. And dude, you got 3 months left. So let's see what you could do. Expose the tapes. How did they coup you? This is what you wanted. There is a reason that Jill Biden wore a red pantsuit to go vote, because they did not want the Democrats and Kamala to win. Biden, of course, this is sort of to the legacy point, like he's realizing, oh shit, well, what will my legacy be? So he's getting ready to take some cred for some of the things Trump's about to do.
Much of the work we've done is already being felt by the American people, but the vast majority of it will not be felt over the next 10 years. We have legislation we passed that's just only now just really kicking in.
All right, look, we'll see. You know what? If you've done some things here, I don't think you have, and I see what you're doing, right? You guys printed all the money and you spent all the money and all that stuff. But I see what you're doing, and it's a smart thing to do, right? You know your days are numbered. You know that the economy is really going to get chugging under Trump, and you want some credit for it. Well, again, take my advice from a moment ago. Start doing some other good things right now. Right? Like you guys actually in the last 2 months, you started cleaning up the border situation because you knew that having a completely porous border wasn't tenable for her to win. Well, you could do a whole bunch more as it relates to that. You could take the negotiating position that Trump has now offered you because Hamas and everybody on both sides of Russia, Ukraine, know there's only a limited amount of time now before it ends up. You can actually start shifting things towards a more peaceful world. Like it's all very possible for you right now, Joe Biden, and then you will not have to just be remembered as the guy with dementia that they kicked out only to have the Democrats lose. It's up to you, man. Let's talk about Rumble Premium, and then we'll get to a Rubin Report Locals.com community Q&A on the other side. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions around COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Of course, Rumble did not. They held the line. They're attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked by brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove free speech while Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers alone. They don't get much of it. So watching our show is the number one way we can ask for support from you. But if you really believe in this fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with promo code Rubin when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium/Rubin and use code Rubin. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just happy if you watch us right here on Rumble. All right, locals questions. Here we go. Tony says, what can we say to our friends on the left? Or how can we help unite this country by bringing things back to the center? Well, it's very hard to have these conversations. We talk about this on the show all the time. I chat with you guys in locals about this, and it's brought up constantly. Like, what do you do? We showed videos of really hysterical leftists right now. And how do you, you're basically asking me, how do you deprogram people out of a cult? I don't know all the tricks of that. It's tough with family members, with friends. You can always tell them what the truth is and they'll push back. And a lot of times then they end the conversation earlier. They get frustrated or they get hostile or whatever it might be. But I would say, actually, Donald Trump gave us a great line on this. The ultimate revenge, remember when they asked him about revenge? The ultimate revenge will be success. I think that if Donald Trump gets in office and we clean up the Middle East thing, which will not take much effort, actually. We just needed a strong America. And we clean up the Ukraine thing, which will not take a tremendous amount of effort. We just needed a strong America. And then the economy starts doing well. And the border gets cleaned up. And like things actually do start getting better. Now, I know they'll put rioters on the streets. They'll do all this stuff. But if you're able to really point out, boy, you know, they didn't start jailing the gays and they aren't breaking up interracial marriages, like that's literally the level of craziness. They're not coming after women. Nobody's in the Handmaid's Tale, all of stuff. Like really try. The best thing you can do is try to connect people to reality as much as possible. These people, through lies, the most dangerous thing you can do by lying to people is you literally disconnect them from reality. They lose their center, and that's largely why religious people tend to not go as crazy as purely secular people. Religious people, you lie to religious people, well, they still believe in something, right? But purely secular people, they only believe in what they can see right here, like the material world is right in front of them. So then if you feed that material world with a whole bunch of lies, they're much easier to spin off into lunacy and be like, yes, I want 7 injections for the thing that you told me it was going to solve in 1 injection. So I think just connecting these people to reality, showing them, oh boy, but wait a minute, black people aren't back in chains. They might start seeing it. Stress-free 2127, that's a good name. Says, hey Dave, do you think Trump will make Tulsi a part of the administration? If so, what position do you think he will give her, or what position do you think would be best for her? Well, I do think he will. She's part of the transition team, and that was public before. I mean, she's been campaigning with him and has been part of the transition team. So I think she's helping staff. I have not had that conversation with her specifically about what she would want to do. I mean, maybe she could run the Department of Veterans Affairs. Like, there could be an awful lot of cleaning up there. I think there's probably some stuff she could do in the State Department. This is what I can say. Whatever he offers her, she will excel at it. This woman loves this country so much. She's an active member of our military. I know her really, really well. We've broken bread many times, and she's just a lovely, amazing person she's the type of person that should be doing this. She's the reverse AOC, really. She really is. She's not doing it for fame or power. If anything, I think the fame seems really bizarre to her and not something she's that interested in. And I don't think she's really doing it for power either. I think she's doing it because she really loves this country, and with the spirit of aloha and all of that, like, that really is her. So she will do something in this administration for sure. Elizabeth says, how's Clyde doing these days? Still chasing peacocks and trying to fight trespassing iguanas? I think we got a picture of Clyde from this week. You know, he doesn't get as much attention as he used to because of the boys, but he's good. He's still mauling iguanas. He's killing. I meant to mention it on the show. You know, the day after that insane thing happened with all the agencies bursting into that house and euthanizing the squirrel, the most insane story of the year. The next day I was walking Clyde. So I think this was on election day, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was the day before. I'm walking Clyde in the morning, and I like to take a walk in the morning. I usually try not to be on my phone because it's like my one chance to just kind of like disconnect altogether. And I'm walking Clyde, and there's these two squirrels climbing up a tree. And I was like, oh, it would be funny if I took a picture of Clyde, like kind of face to face with the squirrel. It's like they just killed the squirrel, but squirrels and dogs can still get along. America has a chance, something like that. And I'm fiddling to get my phone, and Clyde he grabs the squirrel, throws him around in his mouth. The squirrel escapes, kind of limps off like this, and yada, yada, yada. I don't think the squirrel got to election night, if you know what I mean. So Clyde's doing A-okay. KCMTL says, what'll happen if both Trump and Vance are assassinated before January 20th? Wow, going dark on me. I actually don't know the technical answer to that question. And you know what? I think in light of the good vibes happening in the country right now, we're not going to Google it this moment. We're not going to put that out in the universe. I do appreciate the question. It's not a crazy question or unwarranted. Someone needs to know the answer to that. Like, what actually is the next piece in the puzzle of that? Like, how does that chain of command go down for an administration that's, for president-elect and let's just zip it over there. Okay. Jennifer says, hey, Dave, just a comment. You kept me sane in a crazy world. I love the fact that your fans are great people and never gave up hope. I'm a 70-plus-year-old grandmother, and I love the Rachel Maddow joke. You rock. Oh, thank you. Well, I appreciate that. The Rachel Maddow joke, of course, it was not a planned joke, but we were watching something from Rachel, and she was freaking out. She's very worried that they're going to come for the gays and the lesbians. And I said, you can have your vagina and eat it too. I don't think that's going to be much of a problem under Donald Trump. If anything, I think he'll love it. I think he'd actually love it. E.T. Booth says, Dave, got an idea. Was thinking about term limits, specifically DeSantis's term limit ending in 2 years. 2 years before the next presidential election. What if hyper-competent, popular Republican governors that have turned previously purple states deep red bounce to another purple/blue state and do the same? If we can make several of the swing states solidly red, the presidency and the Congress could be Republican-controlled for the years to come. I like this. This is sort of like a sports version of this. Can we trade some of these people? Like DeSantis, you did the job here. We're ready. You got 2 years left here. That's kind of a waste of time. The state's so strong. Can we swap you out? Can we send you over to Colorado? Can you get over to New Mexico? Well, first off, all of the swing states basically went red. So maybe there will be less swing states, at least in the near future. But I like the idea of it. We'll trade you for a governor and a player to be named later, a little bit of cash, something like that. There's probably constitutional reasons that you can't do it. But joking aside, what you really can do is blueprint this stuff. And I would really recommend reading Ron DeSantis' book about this. And I've been to several events. I hosted some of the events with him talking about the Florida blueprint. It is not a coincidence that Florida became deep red. It's not a coincidence that people are still flocking here, that our economy is flourishing, that right now Miami, which was the bluest dot in all of Florida where I live, is now the reddest. I don't know that it's the reddest dot, but like it's deeply, deeply red. And then the fact that we had a proposition to legalize marijuana and we didn't do it. Everyone else is doing it. We had a proposition to wipe away our abortion laws, whether you agree with the heartbeat bill or not, which, as you know, it's a bit much for me, the 6-week thing, but we didn't do it. We didn't end up just turning ourselves to California like that. So once you start doing good things and you get more people and more people partake in the good things, then people start, it starts feeding itself, basically, and the goodness keeps flourishing. And Florida just got even stronger this week than it was before. Joe says, is this election result the end of identity politics, or will the diversity grifters keep up their crusade? Well, look, there ain't no grift like the race grift. So a lot of these people won't stop. I think you guys know my position on this will be that over time I will start phasing out making fun of some of them and talking about them and focusing on these things. I really want to kind of just like bury it now. Like I want, like they're kind of, the casket's going down. It's about 5 feet down. It still has to go to the 6 foot and then you got to bury it. Like that's where we're at. So they still should be mocked. They still should be made fun of. They still should be exposed, but they've lost a tremendous amount of power. There's been a wholesale shift in the narrative, in the culture. That's exactly what Don was talking about, that it will be cool now to be a Trump supporter in college. And guess what? If you're not a Trump supporter in college, you're going to be okay. The Trump supporters won't behave the way you people behaved. And they're not going to have rallies where then they're not going to allow certain people of some religions to come on campus. So it is very, very good what's happening. And the grifters are going to grift. Grifters, generally speaking, grifters don't have a lot of other talents. I think that's probably the best way to say it. Guys, let's talk about 1775 coffee and then a couple other questions before we head out. Did you know that most coffee creamers aren't even made with real cream or dairy? That's right. Your morning coffee might be loaded with oils, sugars, thickeners, and a laundry list of chemicals that don't belong in your cup. But 1775 Coffee's protein creamer is different. Packed with 10 grams of whey protein, 0 sugar, 0 fat, and under 50 calories. Non-GMO and naturally flavored with a smooth vanilla taste. It's pure American fuel for those who want to conquer their day while keeping their health in check. Whether you're fasting, building muscle, or simply gearing up to take on whatever challenges come your way, 1775's creamer has you covered. Pair it with their premium single origin coffee and you're not just starting your morning, you're launching it. This duo is bold, consistent, and unapologetically steadfast as you are. Use code Rubin for 15% off and make your mornings as strong as your beliefs. Ham-handed says, what do you think Trump's first action will be after inauguration? I would bet anything it's to bring back all the executive actions on the border. That seems like number one, right? In terms of just like granular, literally signing as he does with the pen with the very big signature. It's going to be a lot of that. But I would also say that over the next 3 months, we are going to see so much stuff get reordered before he's president that we might get some surprises. I think just the fact from that Zelensky thing that I referenced earlier, or even, Hamas signaling they're ready for a ceasefire, there's going to be so many things that we'll have ordered. And we're going to get some negative surprises too. And who knows what, Barack Obama can do in terms of getting the streets to be violent and everything else. But all of that being said, there will be enough momentum going towards Trump. The Republicans have everything they need right now to fix everything. You've got the Senate, you've got the House, you've got the presidency, you have the culture. We have the alternative media thriving. You have every piece to do everything right. That doesn't mean they'll do everything right. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be mishires, all of those things. But the restoration and reversal of America is going to happen quickly and swiftly. And it's just, to quote Elon, it's going to be great. Quinn says, Dave, now that independent media has overtaken the mainstream media, evidenced by the number of podcasts Trump did leading up to the election, what do you see happening the next 4 years in terms of independent voices versus group organizations like Daily Wire or The Blaze versus mainstream media? Well, that's an interesting question, because you're not just asking me online media versus mainstream. You're saying that there are networks online versus maybe the main networks versus sort of the independent people. I think, look, we are in now a time where it's been happening for a long time, right? The collapse of mainstream media, and I don't know what percentage, I would love to know actually, what percentage of my audience has cable? I haven't had cable in probably a decade. The clips that I show you of these cable news shows is only because the clips exist online, right? So cable's been dumping out and network news has been dumping out and online's been rising. As you know, there are risks to that too, because then with no journalistic standards that we can all adhere to because we're all off doing our own thing, then people really can be taken into crazy rabbit holes. And I try to have the best journalistic integrity I can have. And you guys know if I get something wrong, I don't mind correcting myself. I actually kind of like it in a weird way. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm imperfect. And if I screw something up, then we'll address it. But not everybody's going to do that. So I think there will always be some tension there. Look, there's always in every society, as fragmented as we get, and we're all walking around with this thing, and we'll have AI that'll just be talking to us all day long, and it'll be very catered to us, and the algorithms will get more catered to us, and you'll never see anything outside of your bubble. In any society that's going to function, you have to have something that, I don't want to call it mainstream anymore. You're going to have to have something that is just stream. You're going to have something that is basically the mirror for everything else to bounce off of. It doesn't mean that everyone has to be looking at that thing all the time, the way maybe it was 40 years ago. Like there was one sort of set of news that you could get and whatever. But now it's going to be like, there's always going to be something that's kind of the corporate or mainstream version of things. And then there's going to be all these other things. I am very, very enthusiastic for independent media. I think places like the Daily Wire and the Blaze, which actually do good work while being organizations rather than fully independent creators, I think that they will still thrive. There's probably versions of this stuff on the left, although you know, probably not much ideologically great going on there. And it's a super interesting, exciting time. And I love that I had a little something to do with it by not only doing this show the way I did, but creating Locals, doing everything we're doing with Rumble. I think I've influenced Elon a little bit along the way too. So like, it's all very good. Lynn says, the blue blob won every state that has no voter ID. To implement voter ID in those states, would that have to be drawn up as a bill in the House and then brought to the Senate? Or does that have to be left up to the states? That's a great question, and I'm 99% sure that every state is in charge of its own election security itself, unless there's something that I'm missing here. And if any of you are a legal constitutional expert on this, do let me know. So I don't think that the Senate or Congress, that the House could write a law that would force, well, I suppose there might be some way that they could force some sort of national congruity in terms of elections. There might be, but it's basically left to the states. And generally speaking, that is how things should be. That's the point of federalism. But then when you see things get so out of whack, like it is in California, or my buddy in Jersey who texted me and said, I just voted and I didn't have to show an ID, like that's not right. We all know it's not right. Like it's one of those things you don't have to have much of a deep philosophical debate about. We know it's not right. So is there anything the Congress and House can do? I'm not totally sure that there is, but hopefully more and more people wake up to how wrong and ridiculous this is, and the states fix themselves. Which, by the way, I would say that's the better version of it anyway, rather than having to, have Senate and House voting on these things. Lil Fella says, have you considered having an alternative to The View? Sage would make an excellent comparison. Well, that is an interesting idea. I will bring that to the team. Wink, wink. Devon says, what is the woman of color that Biden selected? Oh, what if the woman of color that Biden selected for VP was Tulsi? Probably never on the table, I suspect. How do you think that would have played out? Boy, the world would be so profoundly different. You have to remember, Tulsi was the last person running. After everybody cut the deals, right before Super Tuesday, Pete and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie, they all cut deals and then they backed Biden, right? That's how politics works. Tulsi did not cut a deal with them. She continued to run. And while she continued to run, Hillary Clinton went on The View and said that Tulsi Gabbard was a Russian asset. Think how evil that is. Tulsi Gabbard, who is, again, a current member of our military, she's been serving for 20 years, basically, since 9/11, who's nothing other than a patriot and a lovely human being. They turned her into a Russian asset. And then instead, I'm sure there was a moment, at least in the Biden White House, maybe we choose Tulsi. It's sort of like, middle of the road Democrat, not crazy progressive. Maybe there's some value in that. But they did the other thing. They said, we will go bananas left with someone who is unbelievably inauthentic, deeply fake, willing to take any position, blah, 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 and then ultimately backstab Joe Biden and cause a coup. So I think things could be very different right now. Imagine if Tulsi had been vice president for the last couple of years and she had been a bit of a bulwark against the craziness. And then Biden had to step down because of the cognitive stuff. Imagine if it was Tulsi running right now and the Democrats had more of a moderate platform. I'm pretty sure they would have won. All the good things of Trump and this new coalition notwithstanding, the coalition wouldn't have formed because RFK would have been like, oh, there's a home for me in the Democrat Party. Elon would have been like, oh, I can work with these people. So it would have been a completely different world if Tulsi had remained a Dem. And it's completely the fault of Biden. Ben says, Thanksgiving dinner or Thanksgiving leftovers? Oh man, it's both. It's both. I am blessed to be around a lot of great chefs. And we host David's family for Thanksgiving, and we probably smoked the turkey this year again, and we do all kind. David does an amazing butternut squash soup with some chipotle pepper in there, and we do some stuffing that is not dry, it's moist and delicious, and the potatoes and all. We do not do a salad at the table. Little known fact, we don't do a salad at the table. It's just unnecessary for Thanksgiving. There's enough food there, enough food. Crafty Cat says, what is the best way to keep the movement going forward? We know this fight is not over. Well, I think it's everything that I've been trying to illustrate this week. Keep going. Like, there's momentum, there's energy, it's real. You're not the only one that feels it. Find new people that we can bring in on this thing. Stop being afraid of your shadow when it comes to arguing with these people. Like we're not racists, we're not bigots. I don't like Hitler, and the more that we can coalesce around, boy, they did a bunch of bad stuff. Let's not dwell on that. Let's build great things. Oh my God, you're not going to believe this. Elon Musk just took us to Mars. Hot diggity damn! And you know what? From Mars, we're going to build a space station on Mars, and then from there, we're going to have 3D printing and a whole bunch of stuff, and then we're going to build rockets on Mars, and we're going to get to Saturn. And there's so many amazing things we haven't been able to dream because we've been so lost navel gazing, thinking about racism that doesn't exist. One more. Steve 59-7 says, what will you tell your sons in the coming years regarding the past 4 years? Lessons learned, etc. Boy, that's a good one. Well, I will always tell Justin that the morning of the election, I said, Justin, who are you going to vote for? And this kid is 2 years old, and he said Trump. And then I wasn't like, Trump is Hitler, and then I started crying in front of him. No, it was just like funny. It was just funny. And if Justin had said Kamala, well, I don't know what I would have done. You get the point. You just stop abusing children with politics. What I will try to tell them about this time, hopefully in the world that we create that is good and decent and more of an America that we all remember as opposed to the America that's been hoisted upon us for the last couple of years. What I would try to tell them is, hey, I was in the fight. I was in the fight, and there's a lot of video evidence of it, guys, and you can watch as I tried to help build a coalition that saved America, and your dad had a little something to do with it. And it's really cool, and it helped build a little bit of a better world for you. And you don't have to worry about a lot of the stuff that these people were screaming about because we ended it. We ended it, and then we paved the way for a better country. That would be a pretty good situation. Guys, we got some new merch over at daverubin.store. There's no post-game show on Fridays. So thank you for watching. What a freaking week. And we will see you on Monday.
The President of the United States.
The U.S. President is Donald Trump.
Yeah!